It's not uncommon that when having the conversation about the greatest games of all time, Mega Man X for most people usually flies under the radar. For all the acclaim and praise Mega Man X has received over the years, it's never really placed on the same level as some of the other all-time greats that were released for the SNES. Admittedly, when your competition is Super Mario World, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Chrono Trigger, and Donkey Kong Country, it's understandable that you might get a little lost in the shuffle. It doesn't help that Mega Man as a franchise has about 1,400 titles, and for the uninitiated, that means that this could just seem like another run-of-the-mill Mega Man game. The problem is that Mega Man X may not just be arguably the best game on the Super Nintendo, it has a case as one of the most complete games ever released. Perhaps most impressive is how this remarkable title has aged, or rather how it hasn't. Whether it's the game's brilliant design, beautiful progression, or excellent polish, Mega Man X remains a timeless classic to this day. Among the chief reasons why Mega Man X holds up so well is because of its impeccable level design. The stages found here are some of the best you will find in either the X or classic Mega Man series. These worlds stand the test of time because of how they complement the tools and abilities gained by X throughout his journey. Every level is unique, well thought out, and fun to traverse through. And from the iconic intro stage to the final ascent in Sigma's Fortress, Mega Man X offers a variety of thematic levels that each present creative and memorable layouts for the player to navigate through. When it comes to the genius of Mega Man X's intro stage, I'm not sure much more can be said about it than has already been said by Egoraptor in his Sequelitis video back in 2011. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. All I can do is confirm that it is indeed one of the greatest intro levels in gaming, and the organic way in which it teaches the player the controls of the game is wonderfully refreshing. It didn't matter whether or not you were a fan of the classic Mega Man series at the time this game came out, because the subtle ways the level's design informs you of the game's core mechanics as you go, makes it easy for new players to pick up quickly. However, this subtle delivery doesn't stop in the intro and can be seen in each of the 8 main levels as well. Take for example how the game's stage design encourages the player to value cautiousness and take their time early on. If we look at Sting Chameleon's stage, we find an enemy with an axe on a ledge above X. As we approach him, we drop a small amount and are attacked by a grasshopper Reploid. As we deal with this new enemy, it gives us time to also watch as the Axe Max swings his weapon and sends his projectiles flying overhead. In this environment, you are able to learn the enemy's attack pattern before having to fight him again later on in a more difficult, less controlled situation. Not only does this type of level design make the challenges found throughout feel rewarding instead of frustrating, it makes the gameplay feel fluid and intuitive as well. What further adds to this game's brilliant level design is how the stages feel authentic and thematically consistent with their Maverick. It's fitting that Spark Mandrill is holed up in a power station, forcing X to make his way through rooms made up of dangerous, electrically charged tubing. It makes sense that Armored Armadillo would burrow down deep into a mine, making X chase him down steep slopes and large pitfalls. And sinking to the depths of the bottom of the ocean to find Launch Octopus in his aquatic base feels maybe most appropriate of all. This helps progressing through the stage feel natural, as the terrain directs the gameplay, which leads to memorable sections like the Armored Armadillo cart rides, and the literal floor is lava sections in Flame Mammoth's conveyor belt rooms. Every level in Mega Man X is original, with a strong identity marked by thematic pieces that make themselves distinct. Spark Mandrill has a sub-boss that shoots lightning at X, Armored Armadillo has 2 chases involving mole-like digging machines, and Launch Octopus has its sea monster battles. And because the stage designs are organically shaped by the theme of each Maverick, we are treated to a wide variety of level types and gameplay. We have stealthy vertical platforming in Boomer Kuwanger's tower, precision platforming in the skies of Storm Eagle's airport, and of course underwater mechanics in Launch Octopus's ocean stage. These each provide very different challenges that keep the player engaged, while keeping the gameplay and levels from getting monotonous and stale. Truthfully, even if the stages weren't as excellently crafted as they are, Mega Man X could still fall back on its tight controls and clean gameplay to deliver a memorable experience. In the same way that classic Mega Man is revered for its fluid movement, the X series is also praised for how it captures the feel of its predecessors while adding additional mechanics to make the gameplay its own. Whether it's the Dr. Light capsules that X finds to upgrade his armor, or the addition of charge shots for special weapons, Mega Man X is able to evolve the franchise in a coherent and natural way. This leads to an excellent sense of progression throughout the journey, rewarding difficulty, and surprising amounts of customization and variance between playthroughs. What makes Mega Man X's central theme of progression so powerful is how each level reinforces that motif in its own way. The game sets you up from the beginning stage by knocking you down and showing you just how weak you really are, but not without giving you hope. Zero's strength shows the potential that X is capable of, and Vile serves as a motivator to get you to that goal. Each level increases X's skills bit by bit through the special weapon abilities he collects, as well as the secret items found hidden within each stage. And when eventually you fight Vile again, it makes you appreciate just how far you've come and makes it all the more satisfying when you finally deal him the finishing blow. The experience of fighting many enemies on your way to Vile also contributes to that sense of overall progression, as the challenging nature of Mega Man X results in the refining of many important skills. Regardless of if you start with Chill Penguin as most do, or head off to Boomer Kuwanger to begin, each level provides many enemies to defeat and many obstacles to overcome. Getting past them all on any stage without getting a game over requires patience, precision, and persistence. Fights like the optional one against the robot in Sting Chameleon stage are a perfect example of a fight that requires all three. With a ton of health and no significant weakness, you will have to grind this foe down while repeatedly dodging his attacks. While difficult and frustrating at points, the reward of increased endurance granted by the body armor you receive makes the battle more than worth the effort. Part of why Mega Man X has aged so well is because it consistently gets this difficulty and reward balance right. There never feels like there's a moment that is too hard that it doesn't feel satisfying to overcome. Even the most difficult sub-bosses, like the second ship fight in Launch Octopus's stage, feel fair because the game not only allows you to fight this new enemy in a much safer environment beforehand, but also because it generously places a checkpoint before the battle. These checkpoints are key to helping protect the player from getting discouraged, because they are placed in strategic locations in order to help you get straight back into the action. That way, if you do run into a challenge that is stumping you, you won't be forced to replay sections you've already completed unless you get a game over. This is why the freedom given to the player to decide what order to take the Mavericks down in is paramount to Mega Man X's long-term vitality. While admittedly this is a feature at the core of every Mega Man title, I always thought that Mega Man X did the best job at making each path feel like a different experience. Even when staying within the boss weakness order, simply starting on a Maverick that isn't Chill Penguin will alter the course of the playthrough dramatically, as you won't have the ability to dash. Maybe instead, you'll start on Storm Eagle's stage because you value how powerful the Storm Tornado is, and you know you can easily defeat Flame Mammoth with it. Another option yet could have you begin on Boomer Kuwanger stage because you know that the boomerang cutter you receive there will allow you to cut off Launch Octopus's arms, limiting his moveset and making the fight that much easier. These options enhance Mega Man X by providing various paths to new players who may be struggling, and replayability to seasoned veterans of the games, ultimately extending the lifespan of a game as short as this one. But by far the most important aspect of Mega Man X's legacy is its impressive levels of polish. While there are many games out there that have great design and crisp controls, very few obtain the level of polish that is needed in order to be considered for the upper echelon of gaming greatness. For a game released back in 1993, Mega Man X holds up surprisingly well in this regard. Not only does the game not have any major glitches to speak of, but its sound, art style, and attention to detail all stand out as aspects of the game that would still be praised if released today. When I think of the SNES, one of the first things that comes to mind is how beautiful a lot of these Super Nintendo games still look. The 16-bit style of art found throughout this console is splendidly ageless, and few games utilize it to create an aesthetic as well as Mega Man X does. Every enemy has a grittiness to them that contributes to the mature atmosphere the game is going for. Mavericks look threatening and intense, and even X has a noticeable edge to him. Each stage has a distinct palette of colors with attractive backgrounds and interesting details that bring each locale to life. Attacks look powerful and destructive, each possessing their own color scheme which X's appearance matches. And even the stage select feels like it adds to the warlike atmosphere, ditching the iconic blue of classic Mega Man and adding dark grays that make the photos of the Mavericks seem like mugshots. These small changes and additions are littered throughout Mega Man X and show the attention to detail the developers put into this title. Whether it's something small like the enemies laughing when they manage to get a hit on X, or something more significant like the way the boomerang cutter can affect multiple fights as I mentioned before, these details give the game its personality. For example, I love that the stage select gives you multiple options of what to view, including a preview of the Mavericks stage, their location on the map, and even some stats like height and weight so you know exactly what you're up against. I think for most people, they may just launch into the first stage without even realizing that these other preview options are available, and it's a nice touch despite it not having much of an impact on the gameplay. Additionally, being able to get the Hadouken as a special move is one of the coolest Easter eggs in all of gaming. Capcom easily could have just inserted a reference to their other hit series, Street Fighter, but instead they reward the player with the strongest and most satisfying ability in the entire game. However, of all the wonderful elements that contribute to Mega Man X's polish, none is more important than its soundtrack. Top to bottom, Mega Man X has one of the most iconic OSTs in gaming history, with memorable tracks from the first title screen all the way to the final fight with Sigma. Among those, Storm Eagle and Spark Mandrill have become some of the most recognized songs from the SNES and can be regularly found on people's list of greatest video game tracks of all time. Other classic songs include Armored Armadillo's fast-paced, upbeat track that perfectly accompanies the lightning-fast cart rides found in the stage, the intro stage with its uncertain yet determined track that fittingly sets the game's tone, and my personal favorite track, Boomer Kuwanger, whose music accurately reflects the struggle of climbing to the top of the tower. But Mega Man X should be complimented not just for a great soundtrack, but for a legendary sound font as well. Every charge shot sounds devastating, every bit of damage sounds brutal, and even effects like when you fill a sub-tank are surprisingly satisfying and unmistakable to the ear. It's the icing on the cake for an already superb title. It goes without question that Mega Man X is one of the most complete games ever released. It's a game with virtually no flaws, and despite its short runtime, its stellar level design, inventive gameplay, terrific art, and legendary music cement it as one of the all-time classics in video game history. With each passing year, Mega Man X's legacy grows as it only becomes more and more impressive how it has stood against the test of time. While the reality is that Mega Man X will likely never be appreciated on the same level as a Super Metroid or a Final Fantasy VI is, I hope that more people will come to recognize just how good this game really is. I won't hold my breath for a Mega Man X9 anytime soon, but a return to the franchise's roots could introduce a whole new generation of gamers to the gloriousness that is Mega Man X, and help to undo the poor reputation the later games in the series bestowed upon the franchise. But if it never happens, at least we can rest easy knowing that we have a game that has, and will, stand the test of time forever. Thanks for watching.